There are no actions as a result of non-public session. We actually suspended our non-public, and we're gonna go back in after, at the end of the meeting, because we wanted to get, I promised the budget committee 6:30, therefore, I'm here at 6:30. And then we're gonna just move on to, I'm gonna start with public comment, if there is any. Gonna move on.
Don't know what you don't know.
That's, okay. I'm gonna move past all the minutes, acceptance.
Well, do you want to approve agenda and?
Yes, please. Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Deb, second by Jeremy. An addition that I did miss was 6:30 with the budget committee. That's gotta be on here.
So do we want to do that before approval of minutes?
Sure. Yep. And then we'll probably bring Heather Sherwood's reports up into the discussion with the budget committee, which is the financial stuff. Anything else that I missed? Seeing none. All in favor? Any abstaining or opposed? Carries. All right, we're here now. Budget committee, thank you for joining us, three of yous. I know you guys have been meeting. I missed the last meeting. I was running late. Deb filled in for me. I know one of the questions that Deb had texted me the other day too, that I just wanted to, the approval of the site committee, the Alpha. So the joint board has not approved that as yet, and it was not budgeted for, I believe is the correct answer.
Right, it's not
So
budgeted, we're on default budget. It
No,
wouldn't matter if we budgeted.
But even SAU 13 wise, we didn't budget for that.
SAU 13 doesn't own any properties, so they would not. Tamworth and Freedom did not.
So none of the three districts have that budgeted for this year. So the Alpha is not moving forward as of right now. Speak if you wished.
I do know that the town had talked about, so I would hope that Joe was gonna be here. The town had talked about when this first came up that, because there was a concern that Tamworth and Freedom might not want to do it. Freedom was already partially down the road with whatever they were doing, Tamworth was kinda iffy. The town had proposed to talk, to see if Alpha would use the town infrastructure as a replacement, so to speak, for the other town school infrastructures, and it would amount to almost hopefully the same amount of work, but that then it would be a whole town kind of thing. So I would suggest, and I'll bring it up with Joe. It was Jake Bowie, Selectman Bowie, who was supposed to have the point of the spear on that, because he had been a member on the budget committee. So potentially connect with him to see that the school might still be able to move forward and include the town infrastructure as part of that.
So we wouldn't be able to move forward this year.
No, I know, but at
But
least
we could move
you
forward
could
budgeting
plans to
for,
move forward, right. It
for
could
that.
get included in this budget.
so town and school to budget together
Right.
for,
Yeah, so that
Okay.
this budget work that's gonna get done, we're gonna see.
okay. In the board package, you do have the expenditure reports.
That is 26, 27, the agenda's not quite right.
Thank you.
It's basically our default budget with very little bit encumbered on the payroll side.
So that usually starts after July 1. Now you start encumbering the salaries and everything after all the contracts are written. So it's on page
I had like
20, yeah, I got,
20 something.
yeah, 23.
But it's these revenue from last year,
Okay.
but the 24 is expenditures.
And we usually try to, Heather will encumber staff and all of that stuff right up front for the year. That way there, it's all in there, and then as there are adjustments to be made, those will take place and happen. If a staff member leaves or is not, position's not filled, change in any insurances, things like that, would get adjusted for.
We just finished open enrollment June 30th, so now we're going through.
So if you get down to the bottom of page 8 on here, what's the top number? 31. It would show you, we haven't encumbered a ton yet, as of right now. But for,
Right, but I was looking at some of them and it appeared to me that there were some lines that, and I'll give you the one in point was the, I'm not picking on you, Heather. The principal's retirement, does that have to be fully funded at the beginning, cause it's showing 0 left in the budget? So I thought that that would be something that gets funded during the year along the way.
yeah, so Heather Sherwood, that was your question.
Retirement principal?
It just means it's encumbered, doesn't mean it's being spent, is it?
No,
Yeah, it says retirement principal was 20,600.
there's 8 cents left.
Yeah,
That
there's-
just means it's encumbered.
0.
Heather's a year-round employee, so her full salary and benefits are all encumbered. It's not spent, that gets kind of drawn down as the months, I shouldn't say months, as payroll is processed.
Right,
It'll show in the current and the year-to-date, and the encumbrance gets smaller.
okay,
So have you encumbered the
full amount.
full year staff already, is that?
Just,
Some of them.
just Heather, probably principal, administrative assistant, and that is probably it.
So ones who have started,
Right.
The ones that get a July paycheck.
got it.
So how does it work? Because even before this meeting, we were no longer gonna have a head custodian, right? We were gonna have
Right, but
the maintenance, but is it in the line item as head custodian?
So, so top of page
30?
7 of the packet.
Yeah. Was that the maintenance and
That's the maintenance, I didn't
the
change
part-time one?
the
Yeah.
facilities, yeah, there's,
It's just listed that way?
The $45,000, 45,500.
yeah,
That was just,
So there's no encumbrance to that.
nope, as we do not have it filled. That would have been one that would have been encumbered if there'd been a,
If there'd been a person in the position. Okay. Budget committee, thoughts, questions, concerns for this year moving forward?
No, it's still so early in the school year, so, more than school budget.
We're a weekend.
Yeah, for a weekend. And I'm sure maybe these numbers aren't necessarily 100% correct at the moment anyway.
Because,
Because you only have
Right.
so much data to work with.
correct,
But I am cognizant of the fact that we should be looking at this every month to make sure that,
and this sits in our budget every month.
every month.
moving.
And one of the things I'd really like to do is start having those conversations where if there are areas of concern. Like I saw there's one line which is the retirement of the custodian is negative. I get that it's only an encumbrance at the moment, but if it's an encumbrance that was based on true numbers, that line is gonna go negative for the year. It's not a lot, but it's gonna go negative for the year,
Right, so therefore there would have to be a budget adjustment from
Somewhere,
somewhere
right,
else.
and having those discussions about, okay, where might you think you might be taking those adjustments from with regard to and what impact does that have? Again, in this instance, it's a very small amount, it's not that much money, but it's those conversations of what is the impact and where is it coming from that I think are important to have.
Yep, and I think at the end of the day too, it's bottom line budget. So it's what the town has gifted to us.
True, and the school board has the authority to expend it as, basically as they see fit.
And we have policies which
Guide you.
guide us on moving money around, I think the superintendent,
up to 5,000.
and then anything beyond that is the school board approval as well, to move along.
Yeah.
So to say, we're gonna take it from life insurance, I don't know, and move it to
Health
health
insurance stipends or something.
Right.
Take it input it.
Right, so it doesn't allow us, it allows us that time to have a conversation about it before it happens. You know, up to $5,000 helps us to move things inter-budget easier with the authority of the superintendent to do that. Anything else that you've seen, would like to know? Where would you like us to, I know I've asked this question of the budget committee year after year after year after year. Where do you wanna see us to be?
Well, you're asking us to make that determination based on the beginning, the first week of the year, so I think that, again, that's an ongoing conversation. Obviously, from a budget committee standpoint, and I'm just speaking from Sharon Schilling, I haven't necessarily had a
We'll tune that out,
conversation.
that's okay.
I haven't necessarily had a conversation with the people on my either side of me as a committee.
And they're all here, we're all posted as a meeting.
Right, and at our next meeting, we will start to delve down into this, to come up with what I hope will be real projected. I don't wanna say numbers, because it's not going to be feasible for us to say, we want you to cap your custodian budget at this amount, or but from a percentage increase or percentage decrease, it's general. Obviously, the town and the budget committee would like to see a decrease in the school budget. The thing that I think we would really like to see, that we discussed at our last meeting, Deb, was zero-based budgeting. I don't know that the school does, I don't think the town does zero-based budgeting, I'm gonna try and get them to figure that out. But I do believe it's time to start zero-basing the budget and starting to figure out exactly what it takes to run, manage, and progress the school and the education system. And so zero-basing the budget, I think, it's not an exercise in futility, believe me, but it is an exercise, and it does take time, and it will take effort on people's part. And it's not something that they're used to. Most organizations at this point, especially in school districts and in communities and municipalities, are not zero-basing their budget. They're taking last year's budget and they're figuring out, okay, health insurance is gonna be 8% more, and, the cost of living, COLA increases are 2.8%, so we're gonna probably end up increasing the budget around 3 to 5% or whatever it is. That's not zero base. Zero basing is sitting down and looking at, what are we spending our money on? Do I still need to spend my money on that? Does it still make sense from a supply standpoint, from a custodian standpoint, all of that? And justifying, if you will, and I'm sorry, Heather Sherwood, but a lot of this ends up with pulling data from the last 5 years to
That's
come up.
actually what we do. I pull 5 years, put it in an Excel sheet, and give them a 0 column,
Right,
and
but
that's where we go.
you just pull that 5 years and give them the number. What I want them to do is pull the 5 years and look at what they spent the money on, line by line by line by line. We spent,
Conversations I have with each principal.
I'm looking to see that it gets not just from at the principal level, but down to whoever else helps with the budget. I don't know. I know in the town it's department heads.
That's it.
I don't know if it's
It's just
department heads, if you have department heads at the school level, or if you have,
We
Not
do,
enough.
right.
two
so-
departments, two heads. Well, I mean, basically the superintendent and the principal, they start the budget process as well as the special ed director, to do that as well. So that's where the department heads come in to play,
What?
because then they bring it.
What I found interesting in the conversation that they had at the budget committee, and I asked them a lot of questions about this, as a going on 31-year veteran in the education system, I've never been given a drawdown of what I've spent for supplies or anything. Yet I have had to put a budget together every year for my classroom. So it was just intriguing to me to say, like, oh yeah, if I looked at and said, oh my gosh, I bought, 500
Crayons.
marker sets and I still have 400, like, that clearly I'm not going to need to budget for that for a long time. So that's something I would take out. So it just was intriguing to me to hear that kind of thing, because I know principals ask for budgets from all the individuals in the building that need to have supplies and things of that nature. I know the principals would be in charge of personnel and more of but like the custodians would be doing
Right,
so everyone
supplies
would
and all.
have their own budgets that they then funnel through the principal, and then those discussions happen. But I think the idea that the head custodian or
right.
that we got a drawdown and saw exactly what we spent our money on was intriguing to me, because I've never had that before.
And I think, I don't think we've ever broken it. Custodian's easy. That's the department of the, building and operation maintenance plan.
But I think it would be easier
Teacher-
for those people to budget too, saying like,
If they
oh,
knew-
look, I spent $5,000 on new toilets. I know I don't need to get new toilets this year,
Right.
so I don't need to put in for that budget. I'm sure those are the kinds of things that they're having
But I think down at the
discussions
staff
about.
level, I don't think we've ever given them and said, Deb, you put in for $1,000 in supplies, you only use 600. But Nan put in for, $1,000 supplies and used 1,400. So, do you need more, do you need less?
Yeah.
Next year, maybe it's gotta go the other way.
I know it sounds like a lot of work, so I don't know whether it was gonna be feasible to do that kind of thing.
But-
Maybe long-term, but not short-term, but it
But
just
does
sounded
the
interesting.
Staff give you, so before you bring us our first round of the budget, see, you get that from the staff needs from.
Right, our budget for teachers, is pretty minimal. So we have general supplies that we budget for, that we know we typically spend and use. And beyond that, if there's something specific for what they're teaching that they need, then they put in for that. But there isn't, we're not getting like, I need 10 packs of pencils and this much. We know how much we spend on our general supply stuff, so we keep that as that number. And then it's, if you need something above and beyond, so like if the way you teach needs, composition notebooks for every kid or special foundation journals, then we budget for that. But,
So the general supplies, paper, pencils,
yeah, so.
those things are just a general supply line, not individual.
When was the last time that supply line, let me caveat that, I recognize that the general supply line makes up probably only 2% of the budget. The majority of the school budget is going to be in personnel, health insurance, the building maintenance and building facilities, those kinds of things, special education, transportation, all that. I recognize
Tuition.
that what?
Tuition.
Tuition. I recognize that the supply line budget is probably not the major expenditure of the school. But I do think that, again, because, and to a certain extent, you just validated it, well, we know how much we spend on supplies. Well, of course you do, because if you continue to give the person that same number, that's what they're going to spend, as opposed to validating it once every 5 years or so to say, we've been spending, and I'm gonna make up a number, we spend $100 on supplies, but if you only had 80, would we still be able to get by? And what did you spend that $100 on? And is that still the same stuff that we need to be spending money on today going forward? And I think that there is a benefit to doing that, at least if not every year, once every 4 or 5 years, in order to validate those costs and ensure that while they increase because of inflation and things of that nature, that we're still spending it on the things that we need to be spending it on, and not just, well, let's buy 100 reams of paper, because that's what we've used over the last 5 years. Well,
So
we're only
can I jump in so you at least have a little bit of insight of how we do it? Because I think that I do the nitty gritty that you're asking for. They give me what they're looking for, and then I do the shopping, and I'm buying class packs, and I'm divvying it up. We're doing what we can to make sure that we are using the money the best way and not ordering for the whole year. What do you need to get started and get through? And then as things need, like, whiteboard markers, they go through a lot of them. We know those are gonna, so we cycle through, but we only order as we need. The paper, we order a bunch and then we wait until we get down to like a few reams left. How much more do we think we need to get to the end of the school year, or how much do we need for the next couple of months? We've done the same thing with custodial supplies. I've been doing this with Ken for the past 2 years. Any of the paper product stuff, he tells me what he needs, and I am shopping multiple different sites and finding it, and we're buying small quantities so that we're only housing what we need, so we're not having to store
Well,
stuff
there's a storage
outside.
issue, too.
Right, but also because when we stored stuff outside, we had mice get into them. So trying to be mindful of that and not get into a place where we have so many things that it's like, I mean, when I got here, that storage supply closet was full of construction paper. Like, I think we're finally at the end of the construction paper. So we have been, I feel like, very mindful in trying to be wise and making sure that we're spending money well, that we're finding the best deals, that we're doing it, with integrity for the tax dollar, because we know that, but also not like, here, now go stash your closet with all of this stuff and maybe you'll use it this year, maybe you won't, if that makes sense.
It does, and when I was at the middle school, a lot of it was done the exact same way. 'Cause they had a me, you don't have a me. That was the person who did all of that ordering. But that's after the fact. What I'm looking for, what I'm looking at is before the fact, is actually going through and saying, when they hand you hey, I need to buy these things. What objective look has really been taken in order to validate that those are the things we really do need to be buying and we do need to have on hand with regard to, supplies that are needed. I don't wanna go back to the days where teachers had to go buy all their own supplies for their classrooms. I'm not advocating that. What I'm advocating is that we
We don't
just,
pay them enough to do
no,
that.
God, no. And I, when I had my son going through school, I remember the days where he got a list from the teacher, the first day of school said, in the next week, you need to come in with these supplies. And it's like, wait, doesn't the school supply that? Apparently they didn't. But now we do, and we have that, I don't wanna say it's a luxury, we have that ability. But I think we do have to go back and take a look at where have we gotten comfortable with saying, well, these are the supplies that I need. And so it's gonna cost us $100 for the year for the supplies that I need. It's the before the fact, and I do know and believe that, I did the same thing. You go to Amazon, WB Mason, Staples, everybody to figure out what's.
Sam's Club, paper's
Sam's
cheaper
Club,
there.
everybody, right. You go to everybody to figure out what's the least expensive way to fulfill this order and get them the quality of the product
Right.
too, still, because paper towels, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
It matters.
So
Toilet paper has a little big variation.
Yes, it does.
Trash bags matter. We
Trash
found
bags
some
matter.
that, tear really easily. Those are not good.
Yeah,
For
they're
our
not good
money,
for
so.
the lunch group. So anyway,
Yep.
those are things that I think from a zero-based budgeting standpoint and we may find that, once every 5 years is fine to do it, we may find like, oh, you know what, when we actually looked at this makes a lot of sense to do it this way. This makes more sense than just taking last year's number and going, yeah, that looks about right, and yeah, based on what I bought, that's probably exactly what I'm gonna buy this year. I'm looking for better than probably, I'm looking for it, you know me, I'm a little anal retentive about numbers, but
Type A, we call it.
type A, yeah. Like line items, I'm gonna buy 100 boxes of
Sticky notes.
markers, I'm gonna buy 200 reams of paper, I'm gonna be buying, and this is what they cost based on websites today. This is what it costs, and so here's my budget, it's $5,000. This is my budget submission, and here's all the validation. It also gives the school principal and Heather, the business administrator, the ability to go, you know what, based on this amount of stuff and your budget with everybody else's, and we're really looking at reducing this, we're gonna have to look at, and it sounds like you're nickel and diming, but it adds up, is we can't buy 100 sets of markers, we can only buy 85, and that'll keep you within the budget, right? So,
I think the thing that appealed to me is not, I obviously know everybody puts a good like it's done on good faith, like the budgeting process of what is needed, and the idea of a zero-based budget was not to like getcha, but like I know as a teacher, there are tons of things I spend my own money on throughout the year, and if teachers were encouraged to track that information, even like I'm thinking like field trips, they're rarely budgeted for. But there are, like the maple sugaring thing that we had the presentation on the last time. Like if that is something that is happening every year and there are teachers who are putting their own money into those kind of things, or we're having to find outside sources of PTO money or things like that, but it's something that they're doing every year, we should be considering that as part of the budget. So in my eyes, it would be like making people at the lower levels that are doing the grind every day reflect on what they're spending their money on, and is it something that should be in a budget? Because we don't want them spending their own money on things like that. So that was where I was coming from, why it was intriguing to me, is to really just encourage people who are budgeting for anything to really track what they're buying for
And
their
how they're buying.
position, and is that something that could be budgeted for so that they're not using their own money.
Anything else?
And this doesn't have anything to do with materials, because our biggest costs is the personnel and healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. So going forward, and I know Sharon has asked, what's the plan? Because currently, what was it, 116, all of us. Well, we were around 104, correct, students? 30 have gone to the middle school, and you'll probably bring in 10. So if we're dropping down to 85 students, what is your plan going forward, looking at?
96 is projected enrollment for right now.
That includes preschool though.
That
That's-
includes preschool, okay,
right,
so
It's 88.
88.
All right, so we're in the 80s from
Mhm.
104. I'm just saying, going forward, personnel and healthcare, and, there's the biggest,
Yep.
to plan for a reduced enrollment, and if, it seems to be that's the trend. I mean, are we talking consolidating, or using resources, I noticed in the newspaper that, we have a .8 media specialist, they were looking for a .2 in Freedom. Are we sharing resources, in other words? I guess I'm just thinking, going forward, if it's 88 this year, what happens when it drops to 75 next year, and so on?
I agree. There needs to
And
be.
I know our building, we have to pay for the building, it doesn't matter how many kids we have, so
Correct.
maybe look for other uses of the building? I don't know.
So we have asked this question for the last year and a half, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I don't know that we've ever really gotten any kind of an in-depth answer as to, yes, we're doing some analysis, or, here's what can be done, and not just with the building of the
Right.
facility, but, I mean, some sort of, I don't wanna call it a study,
Please
but-
hold.
I was gonna, at our last meeting, on Monday, we approved money for a strategic plan, which is the exact plan for the next 3 to 5 years to start in September
Yes.
with the School Board Association, and there'll be 12 meetings. Somebody stop me if I get way out of
Yep,
control.
nope, you're good.
It'll be a guide done with the school board, superintendent, the School Board Association, community members too.
Yes.
So it'll be a collaborative agreement between everyone about that exact strategic
The
plan.
direction,
Whatever,
Of-
of whatever that is,
Yeah.
for Madison in particular, it's not an SAU level, it's just Madison.
And that could, and they say what, what, did they say 3 areas of scope to work on, or 5?
we
3 to
choose
5.
them.
3 to 5.
We choose, but they say don't go too,
Yeah.
don't have 10 areas of focus, but I think for us, some of the things that we could think of looking at is staffing. building usage,
Mhm.
you know, attracting, you know, because I think that's gonna be a big one, because that will change the other two, how they operate too. But I think looking at those areas of focus that we wanna, one, pre-plan for, and two, get better at, you know, so it can work simultaneously together, so I think that's why we decided to move forward with it, rather than wait another whole cycle to get there. Because it's a question that's come up, but it's how to, you know, what do we do with the building? That's not, while I agree that the purview sits on a 5-board membership, I don't think that overall scope fits with 5 members saying.
No, I think it's a
It
community
is,
issue.
so that's where a strategic plan comes into play to get that. I mean, the town is doing its master plan, which is very similar to a strategic plan, which is on a larger scale. But I think this could help fit within that as well.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to add, the last 2 SAU meetings that we've had, maybe even 3, we've actually been talking about potential shared resources and what that would look like. So we've, for the first time ever, have started to have those discussions, and I think at some point those will be recorded as well. But for
This is
whoever,
joint board?
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if whoever, you know, shows up, we're also getting in a little bit more depth with the SAU 9 and 13 meetings that we have, like what that partnership looks like. So there have been conversations that we've started.
So it's not gone on deaf ears. It may appear at a glance, but it has not gone on deaf ears.
Speaking from the SAU, not only just shared resources, but also looking at our curricular resources in terms of we're all in the process of continuous improvement of our students and their academic performance, as an example. And so looking at ways to share professional learning around a common curricular resource, as an example, could be something else that could be explored. So that too, when teachers come together from different buildings for professional learning communities, they have a common language, they have a common approach that they're looking at in terms of instruction. So it's not just even building based, but it's also potentially using resources, peer resources, colleagues working with one another. So that's another example of it's not necessarily resources, but the resources could support shared conversation that help improve the outcomes for all the students. Just another example.
I guess you stopped it before it happened. I prepared myself. That was.
And I do still wanna advocate for, I know you, Jim, you and I have talked about that going forward as we get farther into the school year after September, probably October, November timeframe, not only will you be having the first Monday of the month school board meeting, but you're looking at creating a
So I
2-week
believe
later,
it was
mid-month,
October and November,
October, November,
um, we had-
budget meeting, and
strictly for
budget only.
budget only.
So-
And that's really because, you know, we as a board have had the conversation over the last few years of it's where the budget committee brings in the town department heads to do everything. It's easier if we do it here, cause they're all here. And that's where
We're all there,
understandable, but,
just giving you a hard time.
yeah,
We're all
no,
there.
Do we do rock, paper, scissors?
I'm
or-
sorry, I can't hear you.
no, no, we are rock to their scissors, we are paper to their rock.
Yeah, but isn't there just here but with a T?
Oh, there you go.
There's the door. All right.
Well, and it might actually be something that we consider doing in the gym if there are other people.
If there are other people, yes,
Participating in,
it's
because neither space.
better
would
in
be
here for hearing.
Better here for hearing, Yeah.
Here, H-E-R-E.
Yeah.
For hearing,
Hearing,
H-E-A-R. There we go, we're gonna keep playing on that.
So-
Don't go too far, I will lose, just guaranteed.
I'll add one more thing into the conversation about the zero-based budgeting. Because this is my first onboarding into the district and at the SAU, one of the things that I know I'll be looking at primarily will be those large ticket items. I would prefer that that's where I'm building my deep understanding to understand where students are in terms of their outcomes, how are their needs being met in the district, to ensure that those are in place. And I know that Heather's gonna have and looks at those smaller budget items. So I understand what you're saying, and what you've mentioned is the value of that zero base, like looking at the particular details. But I'll share with you right now, my first coming in here will be, student outcomes and looking at, are we meeting their needs in those big ticket ways, to ensure that they're provided the best educational opportunity. As has already, it's just a matter of ongoing with that process to provide the best. So when you happen to mention things like attracting students, that's where we can also look to potentially attract students, is that's where our focus is. And that's where the hope of that strategic plan will come into play, to provide support for whatever those identified areas might be. So I do appreciate the input on the zero budget, but I know for me, I'm gonna be looking at the big items. And what might be forecasted in the next couple of years, so that we're planning for that. And again, that will come out through our strategic planning.
One thing that I happen to notice, our student service director
Yes.
is here, that we had asked kind of after the last budget process, because there was some deep discussion about
Yes.
the para support in the building and how much we needed. So there was a request for a more regular report
That's why I've
From-
asked her to come tonight.
from
Yep,
the student support, from the student service director.
Yep.
So knowing she's here, just like that, I think also would help us in the budgeting process, so that nothing is coming like out of the blue that we didn't anticipate. If we're being regularly updated on those resources that are needed month to month, then that gives us a sure footing, I think, in front of the community in being able to defend the budget,
early
Yeah,
on
we've
rather
put-
than,
that we've put together.
So as you've mentioned it, I will introduce, we do have Christina Smith, who is our new Director of Student Services. She will be looking at all student services, so although special education might be a key piece, we do recognize that there are other areas where students receive support services, and that will also fall under her area of responsibility. So we're thrilled to have Christina on board.
Yeah.
Welcome.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you, and I will be putting together a report for you, with a lot of those details that you talked about. Kinda call it my student services dashboard per se, so like, not only the IEP students or compliance things that we have, but also out of district tuition stuff going on, financing stuff. Any kind of updates with transportation costs or IDA grant stuff, so I will be putting that stuff as kind of my monthly dashboard.
And
per
I would
se.
like to see, so we've talked about this, in ad nauseum sometimes, is just making sure that we have those up to date, accurate each meeting. And, we went away from it a little while. I'd like to go back to it, having the student services director here at the meetings. And years ago, we had our student service director really early on. And then she'd be like, okay, you good with me? Any questions? And then kind of off into the sunset, so you get to get home early. So I would like to go back to seeing that, at least in the beginning, because we ran into some major hiccups last year, that the numbers that they were using were last year's numbers, not projected this year's numbers. So to come into those and then last minute have, oh no, I made an error. I was using last year's, not next year's numbers.
Okay.
So for me, it's to help rebuild that,
Trust.
not, I won't even call it a trust, but more of a, well, it's an overall trust, yes, but a consistency and accuracy of information that's coming on a monthly basis, so that we can help to project for those things, making sure that our IEPs are up to date, making sure that, the things are signed on time, making sure that the information is relayed, that we need to know, if we have a potential out of district placement happening, to be able to know that before it's already happened, because you can't budget for it or even line adjustment budget for it until it's too late. So being able to forecast what we're seeing and what's going to happen. Took this as a time to add that into now because it seemed to be appropriate. So that's.
And you can always adjust that anytime. I'll come up with what I think, and then if you say, hey, can you add something, let me know. And sometimes it might take a little time to get the data. Depends where it's coming from, but if there's certain things you're looking for, then let me know, and I can always add that to the report.
Yep. And I think services that we provide to students outside of our building is a big thing. How can we maybe attract those students to be back in our building to receive better services overall? So I think all of that plays into the budget, but also plays into a new role and a new person in that role. And how can we help support you in your role as well? I think is the next big piece. So leave it at that for now. Anybody else have any thoughts or concerns?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the word I would use is transparency. Like, I think if we're very transparent about what we need and what we have going on, then that builds trust. So I think that's really what I'm hoping for, is that we all have some common understanding, and we can relate that to the taxpayers who are gonna fund it for us, so.
Yep.
And of course, always the understanding is within a level of confidence that we would maintain
Yeah.
for our students and families.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other budget committee related.
I know one of the things that we I don't want to say struggle with, but one of the things that we discuss and are always kind of cognizant of is the timing of negotiated agreements as they're coming up, and the impact that they might have farther down the line. I don't know that there's anything that can be done about 3-year negotiated agreements, because nobody wants to negotiate a new agreement every single year. That would probably cause people to just, lose their minds. But at least looking at how often we're doing that, what types of caveats, using things instead of straight numbers like and making it up, a 5% increase is using something along the lines of COLA +1 or COLA plus 0.5%, those kinds of things that then tie not the contracts and the negotiated agreements to what the actual economic environment is of the day, which you can't predict necessarily 3 years down the line.
Right.
If we could, we'd all be rich.
In our collective bargaining agreement, this is going into year 2.
Mhm.
Next year, when we start year 3, is when the negotiating team will start negotiating. So next summer is when they would start negotiating the future contract, which is pretty much set. There's minimal that we can change. There's nothing really we can change. We did make adjustments
Yes,
last
you
year.
can make adjustments.
But as far as the collective bargaining agreement that's on the table now, we're going into year 2. We'll be budgeting for year 3 based on that collective bargaining agreement. And then we will be negotiating, generally starts end of June or sometime in June next year, for the following contract to be proposed to the town, which will then be lined out. And the only thing I don't know is, and somebody here answer for me, I know we put in numbers in the budget line items. So we do, the first year is $100,000.
Right.
Second year, 80,000 and 70,000. If we did a COLA plus, and I'm not opposed to this, how do you put those secondary numbers how do you project those secondary numbers? Because the town essentially votes to approve all 3 years of the collective bargaining
Correct.
agreement in one.
One.
How do you,
Well, I think, not to cut you off, but I think those are the conversations that can be happening now as to how do we approach this new agreement that, the collective bargaining agreement that will be coming up, that we have to negotiate a year from now. What are the things that we should be thinking about now in order to find out how would we address a COLA plus or COLA minus going through that agreement? How would that get represented so that you have that, I don't wanna call it, you have that information, you have that knowledge going into that agreement so that, those changes can be made. Trying to make them what I consider to be when you're at the negotiating table, trying to introduce those concepts and understand them.
Sorry, my stomach is.
Stomach.
Should have
I was like, I
I
heard
think you
way
might have
over
heard
on
that.
camera. I think that's difficult at best in order to try and do that. I think it's best started.
I think the
Now.
board conversations will start more in non-public sooner than the June as to what we would like to see potentially change or different in the future agreements. Therefore, our negotiators can be prepared when they go in with that information that they need. So negotiating starts June, but
Yes.
prior to negotiating, I would say, I think it's happened January-ish, where we start adding things into our non-public to say, what are things that you would like to see based on the last 2 years or based on what's moving forward as changes to the next negotiating agreement as a proposal from the board. So it does start happening.
So do those suggestions come just from the board? Is there no outside, ad hoc individuals who come together and discuss that?
I think we take information from what the public gives us throughout the year, or throughout the 3 years. We've heard the budget committee. We've heard the taxpayers say insurance is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
We've heard that, and I'll say I've heard that. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I've heard that, and I've heard that concern, and those are things that we as board members will bring forward and say, I've heard from the town. We've never had, since I've been on the board, a non-board member negotiating the contract, other than administration who sits in the room as support roles to the board members who are negotiating.
And not from a negotiating standpoint, from the input before the negotiating.
We take that, I think, taking that all in as it's given to us throughout the years of, we want to see the health insurance portions
Contribution.
to change.
Right.
Right, standard across the
That-
board for everybody.
Right.
Yes, 14%'s a number I keep hearing from the budget committee. But I'm saying, but that's what I'm hearing.
Right.
So that,
14% is the state average.
Average.
got
You
it.
gotta hear the rest of the sentence, not just the 14%.
But
14% is the
it's
state
average, but it keeps coming up, so it sounds like
Correct.
14% is a
We'd like
better,
to move in that direction.
correct. And
If
we're not far from that,
No.
Right. No, you're not. You're much closer to it than the town is, and
correct.
um,
But so those things are things I listen to and bring forward as we get there as well. And concerns from the administration that say, I really think you need to have some of this or take this away or move this. And then it's ultimately to the staff to make their proposal. But I've always said that we should go in with a good proposal and be willing to negotiate that proposal, because that's why it's negotiation, not just here it is,
Not just
that's
an
what it
edict.
is. Correct.
Well, I just would like to add as well that I have a whole list of notes, like a page long, because the reality is, the way the board sits, it would likely be Deb and I doing those negotiations, but since our last negotiation up until now, I have an entire list of items to go through the next time we negotiate. So yeah, we are definitely listening, and keep the feedback coming, but
So just so you know, we're already in the mindset of these are the things we're thinking about for prep. And was 2 years, I mean,
Right,
Yeah.
it was a
2
year and a half
years in
ago.
advance of negotiating, we already have some things in our mind that we know we want to have in a proposal. And we've already talked to the full board and say we want their input too, before we get closer to that day that we start. So, so it's already started, really.
I think it started the day after the last one was,
Yeah.
the day after the last one was put into play.
Right.
I mean, from the conversations you hear at the deliberative session on, well, why are you approving this contract? You know, we wish you would have done this. That's when those lists in the back of your head start saying, okay, this is something that I think maybe we need to look at moving forward.
Would you consider sort of a public meeting before you start that process of, to give, I mean, there are people probably who have ideas and concepts and opinions that just don't say anything.
I would implore those at public comment at every board meeting.
I know they.
But see,
And the
that's,
document
But
is
just
a public document.
that's right,
Yeah,
yes.
but to call people out to a certain extent and say, we're highlighting this for this meeting, we're gonna have a special meeting or whatever meeting. For this meeting, we're going to do this, we're going to talk about the fact that we're coming up on a new contract negotiation, and this is your chance. We have our own list of the information that we've been gathering regarding the last set of contracts. We heard what you said, here's some of the comments we got. Now's another chance, not a last chance, but now's another chance to refresh it in your mind and give us some additional feedback now, tonight, when we're sitting here.
All right, right here, now, tonight.
I think maybe what might work for us, because it doesn't have to be necessarily a posted thing, is if Sherry and I did like a work session to the public where they could come. So I just know getting the full board together is sometimes a difficult thing.
We could
I
do
have-
it,
I think
A
it's
different stance on it, and this is just my stance on it. I think, you have some really smart people here on the board, and we live in such a small community that having that type of conversation on camera about people's paychecks, I don't think it would sit well. Not only like with us, with the community, like a lot of people even live right in town that work for the school, and I understand you can look up a lot of this information, but I would hope that you guys would trust us to know that we're going to do our research, and we're going to look at the surrounding towns, and we're going to look at the benefits package, because it's not just the pay, right? Like there's some other things that have been written into the CBAs that should have been
written out
years ago. So there's a lot for us to think about outside of just what step they're moving to, or who's
Also,
getting this for benefits.
I think also is that if you did some type of session like that and had it as a public forum session, what then you've done is you've taken the element of, here's what we're thinking out. By giving us feedback through public comment all year long, or all years long, it allows us to put that in the back of our heads and make a proposal. If the town sits here at a meeting 3 months prior to negotiate and said, cut the pay, and 90% of them are in the room are in favor of that, well then the teachers, the staff are looking at it saying, oh shoot, here's what's coming. The town said to the board, cut it by 80%. Cut my pay by 80%. Throwing a wildly crazy number out there just for, but I think that gives the element of negotiation, becomes more of a public than anything else. Because when negotiations happen, you have then, when an agreement is reached with the board negotiators, they bring it to the board. The board ultimately ratifies. At that point, when they've reached that agreement, then the collective bargaining agreement goes back to their collective and ratifies. Then, once those two have ratified, it goes to the town for the final ratification approval. But I think what has happened over time is sometimes that's when they get out to public, and you can see it in other negotiations that have been happening in the valley. When things get out into public, Now the court of public opinion weighs in on it, and it changes the whole scope of negotiations. Because, well, everybody already knows this is what we're offering, so take it or leave it. So I think having that input every month, for us to take under advisement every month, helps us to build that projected strategy moving forward, if that makes sense.
It does, right? Okay.
I would just encourage anybody who can't make a meeting and would like to have input. My email address is deborahparsons@mes-newhampshire.nh.com. You can send me an email anytime with your suggestions or concerns.
.com or .org?
Com.
No, I don't think I knew that. No wonder my emails aren't getting to you.
Damn. I'll change it.
And then, I don't know if, Noreen, if you had anything you wanna say?
I'm too new.
You too do.
Nan did, and you were just gonna walk right over her.
No?
While we were on contracts and negotiations and all that good stuff, non-CBA members, are they contracted
Annually.
yearly, correct? All
Yes.
non-CBAs?
Yes.
So,
So,
And theirs is by policy.
policy.
And we have a policy meeting coming up shortly with our new superintendent, I don't know when, but I've been told,
TBD.
right, we will have a policy meeting coming up shortly,
Coming up shortly.
because we're getting according to the New Hampshire School Board Association, a lot of new policy stuff, and we can certainly look at that in our policy meeting.
okay.
So, do you know,
Are those
I can't,
public meetings? Policy meetings?
no, it's a committee,
It's a committee meeting.
cause it's,
It's usually,
one person from each board. Jeremy and I are both on it for Madison, but Tamworth and Freedom usually have one person. It's usually a random Tuesday night.
We can
Or-
determine that.
Okay.
I thought it was the last of the month, and then we didn't have one in June, so yes, we will have to look at one upcoming, because there will be policies to review.
Okay, and then one last question, just concerning this specific budget that we have in front of us for this coming year. Do you, any of you, see any areas now that are of concern to you?
Personally, the special ed, this is just a personal thing, because of right now, that I know of, we do not have an identified student that's out of district, and if the wrong one shows up, I personally don't believe the budget will cover that person, potentially. Not to say that we should be fine, I'm hoping, knock on wood or
yeah,
whatever's wood here. That's my only personal concern, the rest of it,
These are things.
But that's,
right,
that's kind of the same, I don't wanna call it a crapshoot, but that's sort of
It
the
is what it
same
is.
dilemma we're in almost every year is
well,
how quickly or how easily or how far in advance are we able to identify those students who might need,
when I started on the board, we had over $1 million in special ed.
Right.
This year, we had 25,000,
of out-of-district placement, especially.
and that was just transportation.
Correct.
So that's, okay.
It's just been a massive swing of
Out of district.
out of district, or even, right, just, I
Or-
think the preschool has done a lot to save us a lot of money by
Big hitters,
getting
big
kids-
players.
Right.
Right.
Right, the
students who need-
preschool out of district was a big thing that was, they do their child find, they have their other pieces, and then we notified. But we sometimes didn't have a say. Is a student gonna be at
Whatever.
ABC school or CDC school, whatever it is?
Well, because we didn't have.
Because we didn't
preschool.
have our own. Now we have our own. We have our student services director who can help manage that and try to, make sure I think attracting those families who need those services to this program that's built in within SAU 13, so that one, we can minimize the cost, maximize the staff, and maximize the overall growth of the student and be better well prepared for what it looks like when they become our kindergarten student. So,
Oh, no, but if you back up even further as far as preschool, for a couple years in a row, Madison had no preschool students going over to Freedom, which is where it was housed.
but they were going
And then-
elsewhere.
Excuse me?
They were going elsewhere.
We
The-
were
the parents
paying
would-
them to go elsewhere? We didn't pay for them.
We were most definitely responsible for, no matter, even now, if a parent decides that they do not want their student in our preschool program, if the team and or parent decides that,
Okay, a team decision
a team
says
decision says that,
we cannot accommodate this student in our current preschool.
Or- I believe the parent still has the right, in my,
Oh, I
to
don't
choose,
think
I
that
don't
you're-
wanna speak way out of
That's
turn,
not
but
what I was gonna
our
say.
preschool is the school of record. And that's how we would approach
Right.
it. There could be other reasons the IEP team would choose to not send them
okay,
there.
I'm sorry, so I'm gonna back down.
Right,
The first year and two were a little bit different, because if there was a student in ABC school already,
they could stay.
moving them to our program would be,
Right, no,
but
that makes
yes,
sense.
okay,
But when you back up, because we had a preschool,
yes.
and then we
But-
did have students, and then we didn't have a preschool, and then and we're all in support of the preschool, don't get me wrong. But, so you don't know, Eddie, I guess is what I'm saying, you know, we could have 2 students from Madison, and at this year, we could, you know,
Right.
you don't know. But I agree, I think a warrant article last year was what, 25,000?
To go into the special
Go
reserve
to the
capital.
special reserve.
Right.
And we do have a
It's
fairly robust,
50,
Right.
special ed capital reserve
Right.
for that,
200 now.
that 250 or 200, whatever it is right now, it's in here somewhere.
It's 235.
It could, it will help us,
Right,
but that could be burned in a second.
Oh, gosh, yes.
for sure. So maybe in, you know, moving forward, I mean, you don't know, but maybe 25,000 is not enough, I don't know. I mean.
And the problem we've had, and this was a advisory budget committee thing from advisory budget committee of past. You haven't spent it, why you keep putting money into it?
Well, I think we all recognize now why it's necessary to
I
put that money.
understand.
That's not a fight that you have to undertake to convince us that there needs to be money in that fund, because you don't know
And
what's coming.
how do, how, I think, I had said at one point, I thought $200,000 was a good number. And that was probably 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
$200,000 now is today's $500,000 number,
Right.
Right, there's,
you know?
Saying that, I'm gonna go back a little bit to the zero-based budgeting, is you can't just tell people that, you have to give them justification for why. Why is it now $500,000? And show them, here are the costs, here's the transportation to get a student from their home to the out-of-placement facility or whatever, wherever it is that they're going. Here's what we have to do, here's what we have to pay. The cost used to be $10,000 a year for an audiology specialist, now it's $50,000 a year. Those kinds of things go miles to explaining to people and the taxpayer. The taxpayers in this town are not interested in cutting services. What they're interested in is keeping a handle on how much does it cost to provide those services, get that good education, because we are all concerned, and I think some of the homeschooling numbers show, like, you're not losing children to Robert Frost Charter School. K through 6 has 0 in those numbers. We're losing them through homeschool and through the middle and high school areas, where students are going either somewhere else or to another school. You talked about, how do we bring them back? How do we get them back to this school? Well, in my head, we get them back through quality education, performance metrics that are good, and, you know, quality teachers, quality staff, which I think we've gone a long way to start moving that forward again. COVID did a number on us, and every school district has taken a
So-
couple of years to recover, but
Just a correction.
I'm looking at your numbers on the chart that
So-
shows 0 students in Robert Frost Charter School.
No, Robert Frost Charter School has none, but Northeast
None.
Woodlands
No, I didn't.
is a charter school.
Yeah, I know, but I specifically said, you're not losing them to Robert Frost Charter School.
Correct, but when I think of charter school, I think of all
I'm
of
sorry,
them
you're thinking
as a whole. it's not just that we're losing them to homeschooling. It's we're losing them to different
Oh, yeah, you're doing them to different
options
other
of schools that fit
other
families'
opportunities.
needs.
Right. And there are always going to be those, but if
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to be able to
Correct, bring them back.
bring them back, then yes, those
Yeah.
opportunities. And then also there's a cost associated with that potentially, either a positive or a negative, I don't know. But-
So the negative cost impact to it is if every student that were to come back, let's call it,
New staffing.
not necessarily. I mean, within our class size policies, we may be able to still make it work.
True.
It brings down our cost per student. Your state adequacy money, which is very limited, or gone, thank you, okay, no longer existent for us, because of our nice reevaluation last year.
Not related, but trends in the same direction.
Trends in the same direction, thank you. But it would offset our cost per student. So 10 kids back in at our cost per student
It's
Get-
driven down.
gets that number driven down.
Correct.
21.
Our evaluation went up that much, our equalized evaluation, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's, yes, I think we're looking at those. If there's nothing else,
I was just gonna say, biggest area of concern was, one of the questions is tuition, just hearing from Heather, the uncertainty of what tuition costs could.
It's definitely going up.
yes. So no matter what we do, looking at our high school and middle school options, the cost is going up. Leave it at that until we get any further on. Jerry, fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to add in the conversation regarding special education costs. I think when you're working with a good solid core program and you're following your tiers of intervention, you're following those processes established to ensure that interventions are in place for students and you're monitoring student progress and you're only proceeding to the next levels based on evidence, those are things that I know what we'll be looking at, or I should say continuing to look at, in terms of being able to see when students' needs might shift to where they need services that might potentially be more expensive or less. And again, sometimes the costs can be associated with a particular student need, like if you think about audiology, like that could be very particular and we don't know. But if we're looking carefully at all of our IEPs and ensuring that they're written well based on evidence and student need, we should continue to be able to look and determine where that trend might lead. However, there's always flux within communities with students moving in and out that you have no idea. And so having fund balances for even unanticipated needs such as that is important to ensure that those incoming students have their needs met. So even if you think about paraeducator services, they might fluctuate. You might have not a need at the beginning of the year, and in the middle of the year there's an increase, or vice versa. So you have to plan carefully, but there's always going to be some fluctuations that you can't anticipate. Hence you plan for that.
Anything else?
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
We have our meeting July 14th, I think is that the date, Tuesday, and so, this will all be a topic of discussion. Do we know, Mr. Curran, who will be attending the
I
meeting?
will be,
You will be?
Yeah.
Okay. I was kinda
as long
hoping-
as I don't get myself out of town again. What's that?
So I was kinda hoping for Doug.
So I see the favoritism from the,
substitute,
let's
just put it that way.
I appreciate that. She had to drive over hill and yonder to get there and then way over hill and yonder to get home.
Right.
So the budget committee will be getting a bill for her extra mileage. Perfect. All right, we're gonna move on. What's that? Approval of we got the agenda approved. Approval of minutes of the June 1st non-public and executive session minutes.
Motion.
Can we
Motion
do
by
it as a group?
We can. So approval of A, B, C, and D, June 1st, 22nd, and 22nd, public and non-public minutes.
Motion.
Motion by Jeremy, second by Ed. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Carries. You have your consent agenda, principals report, enrollment report, capital reserve fund balance, CIP, revenues report and expenditure report that we talked a little bit about here already. Take a motion to approve your consent agenda. Motion by Jeremy, second by Deb. Any other additions, deletions, anything want to be pulled out of there or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Carries. Next regular scheduled school board meeting is August 3rd at 5:30. Same bat place, same bat time, same bat channel. Principals report. Projected enrollment, open positions.
On page 32 is the projected enrollment, that's as good as we know right now. It's really hard. Over the summer, we have kids move in, we have some move out. We know of one that may move out, but they're not sure. So, we're just planning for what we know in the moment, and this is what we have. We're looking at 88 students, for K through 6. The 8 that's listed there for preschool are Madison students in the preschool. So there are more preschool students enrolled. We just put the number of Madison students in our enrollment list.
Okay.
And you'll see the class configurations on the bottom left.
Yes, it is still under the SAU budget, but that is 8 preschool students that Madison has
In the,
In the building.
enrolled in the school. Are there any Madison students on a waiting list currently?
I have no idea, I don't know anything about the preschool. The SU preschool.
I don't know. Are
Does-
we,
I don't know if Christina knows.
That's, I was
Talking to her.
looking over.
So I will share that because Christine and I just came on board, we did have one request for a student to attend our preschool, and that will need to be discussed, but we have not had the opportunity yet. I know Christina was involved in ESY quite a bit today.
Mm.
So I will give you an update on that at the next meeting.
Okay.
I just had a question on the kindergarten number, because in just reading the minutes from the last meeting, 12 was the guesstimate, but now that's solid.
As solid as it can be right now. Like, we had some kids register but haven't submitted all their paperwork, so it's as good as we have for a projection.
So 12 includes like somebody who's filled out the paperwork, but
Right. Or came to kindergarten registration, but then took the paperwork home to fill it out. So that's our best. So we should know more after we do our August practice days. So after enrichment program happens, that very next week, we do kindergarten practice days for 3 days. So all of those kids will be invited, and then that should solidify for us what our numbers are. And it's after those days that teachers do class placement. So they have the opportunity to meet the kids, get to know them, and then they'll decide class placement at the end of that.
Other questions? Open positions?
Well, earlier tonight, there was a proposal about the open positions for custodians, so I'm not sure where that's at,
We
but,
haven't done anything with that as of yet.
so, we have open positions there, and that's it. We are, for academic, teaching staff, we are fully staffed.
Okay, questions for Heather? Heather Sherwood.
I have the fund balance in here, was done in the morning after last Monday's meeting. It hasn't changed a whole lot, I did encumber what we discussed. This is a best, I'll say guesstimate at this point. Jen and I were both in Madison working at the same time, which is never a good idea, cause we were both in the AP module. So, I'm like 85% good on this number, but
Okay. So
guess
if you're
we'll be
both
better.
working on the same, if she's doing it out and you're doing,
I'm putting things in, she's trying to pay things off, we're both closing, purchase orders, voiding some, yeah. There could be a little toe stepping happening, so I'm balanced the rest of July, I shut my door, put on headphones, don't talk to anybody, hopefully, and
sorry Kathleen, you're out.
close, close out every offboard entities, so.
Got it. And so, obviously, there will be a fund balance to
Yes.
return.
It should hover around
And it
that
will be
amount.
substantial.
I know we still have some money for Conway encumbered because we are just at the 6th of July. So we'll see what happens.
I see it, the bills, yeah. They're out.
Did either of the House bills discussed get voted on or not voted on?
No, complete silence.
Did not hear anything.
So does that mean that they pass on the desk if they don't get voted on, or do they die on the desk if they don't get voted on?
They used to die on the
Oh,
desk and that is gone.
Did you hear a veto?
I thought I had read in an article last week that the
The
unexpended,
1610
that
was
16
vetoed.
was vetoed. That's not, the cap was HB 1300.
Yeah.
and the-
1610
And
was
it was a
vetoed?
I
That's
heard,
the,
because the governor said there were 95 schools or something that had already planned all of their expenses, that she thought it would just get up to be a mess.
I was wondering if she was gonna wait and sign it in July, which meant it would have taken effect.
The
The
future,
following
which
year.
I would be
Visually
much
vetoed.
better having that.
AI tells me,
Yes.
it's officially vetoed on July 2nd.
What, than having it after you've already done your budget.
Gosh.
You know, after you've planned, you know, we spent September on last year planning, then to basically throw a bomb in the middle of it.
What was the other number?
1300 was the tax warrant,
If you can find it,
or the tax.
Can you
cap.
send
So
the article?
she has a list
If
of
I
ones
can
that
find
were
it,
signed
yeah.
into law.
and then send it and I'll forward it.
So
to you.
neither one of
Okay.
those are on there.
Forward it to
Okay.
Will do.
Dr. Shalom.
Thank you. Yes, so there is a fund balance. It's gonna happen. Any questions related to the fund balance? Okay,
I will say I do have money accrued. School district has not yet received all of their money from the town yet. I've supplied them with some information. I've not heard back, so I'll reach out tomorrow.
okay. All right. Any other questions for Heather Sherwood? Seeing none. How did Kathleen get a little report this month?
I will
new.
simply say that I've had the opportunity to meet with Heather this week. And we had a good conversation. I'm very glad that it's wonderful to hear that your staff is already fully in place. That's a credit, and also gives you peace of mind going into the summer. I know ESY began today, and Christina Smith was there for that. I anticipate that my report will be different going forward, including information on the policy committee.
You guys are gonna get whipped into shape. I'm just saying.
It's all good.
Yep, it's all good.
I have a question.
Yes.
About like logistics.
Please.
So I know I've had a conversation, I think, with Jim about the idea that it sometimes is an advantage or a disadvantage to have the SAU in another school within the SAU, in terms of access. So I'm just curious if you have anticipated any kind of procedures that you're gonna put in place where if people want to meet with you or have a conversation with you, that there are appointments that are necessary, or is it gonna be kind of open and drop in, which my understanding is how things have kind of rolled in the past.
And snowballed as well.
Well, I
Yeah.
feel like it gives the SAU, certain towns obviously have better access to the SAU just because of their proximity, so, and it can take up a lot of your time or people in the office time, so I was just wondering if you gave any thought to that.
I've given it much thought and will be putting something in place. Just have not had the opportunity to do that just yet. But I yes, want to ensure an equitable access, and similarly that I am also in the schools within the different districts and not just only at the SAU. So for example, meeting with Heather here today is a wonderful chance to get into the school and even see some of the staff as I was departing. And just say hello to them, get them an opportunity to meet me, see some familiar people who are becoming familiar faces to me and understanding kind of the role that they play in the schools. But also in terms of ensuring that the work that I do is supporting all the schools equitably and paying attention to that from a time commitment. So I understand that.
And the funny thing is, that was one of my questions too with the student services director, is are you gonna have a scheduled day in each school? Scheduled day for, is your schedule gonna accommodate so that not just board members knowing when you may or may not be here, but when staff knows you're Madison's my Tuesday day or Freedom's my Thursday day, so that for planning and scheduling and things like that, are you gonna have a consistent schedule that will accommodate those?
So to speak for Christine, I think that's an opportunity we need to meet as a leadership team
Okay.
and have some of those discussions, and we have not had the chance to do that yet. And also including Heather in that, so that we're aware of other timelines that she has for the work that needs to get done within the schools and how she might need information from us in that planning. So we
make
just
those work.
haven't had a chance to have a leadership
Right,
meeting yet.
we're a little early in 2 new people as of the first of the month, and it's
We'll
the
get
6th.
going on it. But students came first today,
Okay.
and conversations getting prepared for the meeting tonight were
Perfect.
important.
I actually have
Yes.
a question to follow on to that. Have parents with children that have either an IEP or 504 been notified of some of the changes that have been made and introduced to the new folks that have been hired?
Not yet. I will still say that we do have a new letterhead that was developed, but our student office service provider was not in today, but we are looking to change some things on the website. For instance, take down the 25-26 calendars. Some of Dr. Wallen's pictures and his welcome letter are now down. The idea is to replace those, but also get to a point where we are reaching out and ensuring that the community has been welcomed, to understand who we are and say hello to them. But we want to also be able to provide them information about how they can contact us. We have gotten some emails, but to have that conversation so that we have a common message and are coordinating that, and it's not just being done individually.
Well, and just a thought with ESY going right now, it may be like a meet and greet, maybe a good thought.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Others? Okay. Corner School House update. I know they've received some words back from the 7 to Save and I can't speak knowledgeably about it, so I'm not going to. They've received some level that it's okay. I think they had to agree, they had to get an approval to apply, which they have received the approval to apply now, for the grant moving forward, which is the conservation. But I will leave that to those people to send it off, and we can present on that next month if they have that. Building and Grounds Committee,
We got some stuff approved to fix up the grounds last meeting, so that's moving forward.
okay.
Don't think there's the bathrooms. Heather, do they have any projected start to the bathrooms downstairs?
They're gonna start
2 weeks,
Oh,
wasn't it like 2 weeks?
a week from today, 2 weeks of ESY to get in, and then they're gonna start demo.
Okay. And then,
Should I just ask,
yes,
who's in charge of mowing the lawn on the hill?
The town usually does the mowing, but
Okay.
they're still
They're
fixing it.
slammed.
They're still fixing roads.
Yeah.
And
Taking volunteers,
Right.
if anybody wants to volunteer.
sure. And Ken would do it, but Ken is retired.
We do have a mower, so yes, the town does take care of the mowing, but we do have a mower and a weed whacker, so when there are situations, they've definitely gone out and done that, especially before we have events at school.
Okay.
But yeah, right now it's just Herschel, so he's focused on prepping the buildings, but also knowing that we're going to be redoing the top of the field as soon as that's ready.
As I was looking at committees, Deb, I left off the master plan.
That's okay. Because I didn't go last meeting.
Oh, because she was busy going to the budget committee.
No, it was a different day. But
Got it.
I
Okay.
think because normally it's the first Wednesday of the month and it follows our meeting. And this month it happened to be the week before.
Got it.
so
Okay. No problem.
Did not go. I can tell you that they discussed, well, they were gonna be going over the interviews that were done by certain members of the committee of people in the community to kind of go along with, the first round of the community meeting that they did.
Mhm.
So that company that's pulling together all of that information was there and they were going over that part.
Okay. Old business strategic plan, that is contract signed, in play. We're just waiting to hear back from the New Hampshire School Board Association as to our next steps. New business bus shed, I believe that's dealt with, it's gone.
It magically disappeared one weekend. It's looking pretty good up there.
Which bus shed?
The
Butler
one that
bus
bus
shed.
company,
Butler's bus shed?
yes.
What about the new bus? Is the other company bringing the?
They expressed interest in one. I've not heard anymore.
I think we would accept them to build
Raj?
a garage that we would let them store stuff in, if they were to build the garage. Build the field and we will come. Okay, yeah, so nothing with that. School district auditor, do we need to approve?
Yeah, I would like you to. So I put an RFP out end of March and had the due date the end of June, or towards the end of June. I sent it to 5 different that came recommended either through, I should say, recommended is not the correct word. They could do the work. Their auditors are fairly limited, either through NASBO or from our current auditor who is done after this next round of auditing. 2 did not reply. 1 rather quickly, Plotzik and Sanderson said, thank you, but we do not have the bandwidth to meet our needs. And I wasn't overly specific in the RFP. The one that went out last time was 33 pages, mine was 2. But I also said that, we're 3 districts. I gave them the size, our average budgets. We have never needed to do a single certification for grants, which really lessens the amount of work the auditors do with us. But that that Madison's a traditional SB2 town, so that we expect to have the audit work, that my work is done September, that they're able to do the field work October, November, and that they issue the reports in December so that we have it to put in the annual report. And that the other 2 towns are really just a month later. So Plotzik said they did not have the staff to meet our timelines for that, and it's very much true. I keep hearing that through companies, districts that use them, that they get right out. They're doing field work September, October, November. Everything's getting done, and even the follow-up, whatever questions they might have or more information. And March rolls around and they still don't have their reports from the auditor.
And that's where we ran into with Plotzik last time. We had them before and we were yelling, it's like, come on, Madison's getting ready to print, and we still don't have the report.
And I really thought Plotzik was gonna be the one to say yes, because they've been saying yes to other districts. Then Kluge and Vauchan said no, not at this time, but if we didn't hear back, You know, if we didn't find somebody to reach out in the fall, that they had just hired some new staff and they'd have a better idea of their capacity a little bit later on. But Robertson Green did respond with an answer to the RFP. They have been, they were the auditors for Town of Wolfboro for quite a while, and Jen Huckmans, who was in our office, worked for Town of Wolfboro and has worked with them and had wonderful things to say. They came in, I think they did their homework and looked at all of our public facing documents. Their bid, it's for 3 years, so for 26-27, they came in at 9,000, which was in our proposed budget. Our default budget's carrying 8,500, so it's pretty close. And then they have 9,500 for 27-28, and 9,500 again for 28-29, and they're willing to commit to all 3 years in our timeline. And this is my only respondent, and we really need an auditor. So I can do more reference checks, but I recommend we say yes and thank you.
I'll make a motion for the 3-year contract.
Second.
With Roberts and
Green.
Second by Jeremy. Any other discussion? Just found a budget overrun, just so you know, $500. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Done. Just wanted to let you know as soon as I knew.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Actually, that's actually not for this budget year, is it? It's for next
No,
budget?
it's for next budget.
You didn't even- That's all right, no biggie.
You'll have a number.
All right. No, he's not up to do it. All right, that's, any other new business? I will take a motion to return to non-public. Motion by Jeremy, second by Ed. Deb?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.